Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Jump right into the story today. U.S. Air Force declares women are less valuable than men. Now, not officially declared because, boy, would they be in hot water if they did that. But in a roundabout way, it's the same thing that happened over in the UK Air Force. Well, I don't know if they call it the Air Force, but the UK RAF, the Royal Air Force, I guess they call it over there. I'm going to jump right in because what I find so interesting in this is an article back from April 23rd of 2022. So back in April, and they said, we need to end the all-male, all-white cockpit because something like 83%, I think they say, 83% of guys that want to pilot and want to fly are white guys. Okay, well, we do have a majority of Caucasian people here in the United States. And on top of that, most of them, it's usually males that get excited by Top Gun and all these other films where they say, oh, man, to be a pilot and to be able to fly this amazing machinery and it's full of adrenaline and it's scary and it's interesting, I want to do that. That's not something that women naturally feel. And they talk through this article, and I'm not going to read through it, but they're basically saying like, oh, well, this needs to become a women's club and we need to have minorities here and everything else. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But what they're doing to fill these roles is telling men no. And they're telling white men no. Now, perhaps if you're a minority, you might be an exception to the rule. And again, this is back from April. And what's happening? Well, there's a shortage of pilots. And, of course, this is from a red state because no left-leaning websites are reporting on this. They say, unexpectedly, the USAF finds itself with a critical shortage of pilots while it says it has too many white officers. I'm going to read a little bit about this, but I want you to keep in mind, this is the big takeaway. It's all about how you frame something. And this is something that I'm learning now. And I'm not saying this is a good thing. Like, guys that want to be pilots should be pilot. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter whatever. And if you're female and you want to be a pilot, great, but you shouldn't be given a leg up over a superior male pilot and vice versa. If there's a woman that's better, then a male should not get in. But then again, most of the jets, there's been 3 or 4 articles in the past year of women becoming pilots, and they're like, oh, let's brag about this woman. She's the first pilot. And then 2 weeks later, she crashes an F-16. So they say here, there's been talk in media about the difficult recruiting environment for the military it's facing due to the surplus of fat, stupid, criminally inclined, and all-around unmotivated sluggards that now constitute a majority of the prime recruiting market of 17 to 21-year-olds. I've done a story on that. And they say it's serious, but at least one service, the USAF, is facing a more critical problem, a critical shortage of mid-career aviators. Truth be told, I would bet Navy aviation has the same problems. And there's one segment down in here that I'm going to read right here. According to federal labor statistics, the U.S. airline industry needs to hire 14,500 new pilots each year until 2030. Yet the United States reportedly produces just 5,000 to 7,000 pilots annually. So they're not even filling half the number of pilots they actually need. And in the military, what's happening is military guys are saying, hey, you know what? I got major or I got colonel. I've got 20 years retirement money or, half. I don't. It used to be when I was in the military, if you retired after 20 years, they gave you full pension. Maybe now it's only half. I don't know. But the whole point is these guys are hitting 20 years and they say, hey, you know what? I can go into commercial and make a ton of money, and they're bouncing out. So not only is the military underpaying qualified private pilots, but in the same token, they're coming out with stuff like this, which is, hey, we need to end all the dudes coming in and taking the piloting positions on the civilian side. And here's the best takeaway, and then I'll do my little rant here at the end. They say the USAF has responded to the challenge by eliminating prior flight training as a plus. So even if you had prior flight training, they've eliminated that. They don't care. They found that such training favored applicants who could afford private flying lessons. It's also announced that it tends to reduce the number of white pilots or white officers from 80% to 67%. This is what we like to call many times as the Rossism. Compounding the outright isms and phobes or bigotry involved in these goals, the Department of Defense new diversity, inclusion, and equity officer, they call her Uberführer, Kelsey Wing, is, to be charitable, a pathological and virulent ist. Tweeting out such nuggets as wisdom as this. She says, I'm exhausted with these white folks, FOLX. So you know who that is. In these PD, professional development sessions, this lady actually had the audacity to say that black people can be racist too. Or acist. I don't know if I can get away with that word on YouTube anymore. I had to stop the session and give Karen the business. We are not the majority. We don't have power. So in other words, you can't be any of the isms or phobes if you don't have power. Here's the takeaway from all of this. If you're a pilot, yes, it does suck, okay? Men want to be in these positions. They should be allowed to be in these positions. But here's the thing. With them saying we're not taking any men, and especially we're not taking any white dudes, well, we don't want them basically being in the military. We don't want them officers. Okay, that's fine. The officers, officer pay isn't that great. I don't even know. Let's see what a major gets. All right, here we go. Yearly base pay is 63 to 105. So that is pretty good. Monthly base pay is 5,000. That's 60 a year. Yeah, to 8,800, like they say. Hourly rates 32 to 55. And to get a major, you've been in for a while. You're not a butter bar. You're not a silver, a first lieutenant. You're up to major. Excuse me. And then you've got captain, and then you've got major. Major or colonel is where most of the military guys are retiring from. But guess what? I guarantee you, if we look up airline pilot, they range from $56,000 to $700,000. So the starting range is about the same. 56,000 on that, and here what did they say, 60 or 65,000? So it was close. Up to 700 grand. They say the average annual salary of 222,000. However, some Southwest pilots make as much as 550,000. Now, if we go back and look at the military salaries, that's a lot more than this, isn't it? So here's the interesting thing. The Air Force is basically saying we don't want white pilots anymore, and the private sector is doing the same thing. However, they're so desperate for pilots that they're saying, well, we don't want to, but hey, we're a business. We got to keep hiring them. And that's why I want to change the terminology on this, because if you walked up to this lady that's the military's diversity officer and said to her, I personally want to thank you. I want to thank you for hiring women and minorities to go into battle instead of white men. The fact that you would take that bold step to protect white men from going into combat and keeping them out of our armed services so that when we go to battle, only minorities and women are killed. Bold move, and I really appreciate that. And see, they don't look at it that way. And the truth is, neither do I. But when you spin it on its head and you say this to them, I think it would change the rhetoric. Then they'd probably be like, okay, we only want male and white pilots to be flying because they're disposable. They're at the bottom of the barrel. So here's the great thing. If you're a young pilot today and you want to be a pilot someday and you see this going on and you say, oh my gosh, this is so awful, it's unfair. You're right. It is completely unfair. But here's the good news. You can come up with some of the ideas like these wackadoos are, but the truth is the market and demand and need will supersede everything else. If you're anybody that doesn't want to be a pilot, even if they offer you good money, the truth is you're going to do the bare minimum. You're not going to have the aggression or the desire or the will to be the best of the best of the best. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to get hurt. They're going to get killed. They're going to end up destroying planes, crashing, whatever. And they're going to come back and say, you know what, we need to find people that really want to do this. This is a big deal. We need to find somebody that's actually excited about it. And when they do that, this will all go away. So they're trying it, but it's ultimately going to fail, especially in something that's where you're flying, million-dollar planes, several million-dollar planes, and you're finding people that aren't really that interested in it. That's where you're going to have problems. It's just like doctors or medical personnel. If they're not into it and they're not excited about it, I mean, there are medical students that cheat on their tests. There are interns, or what do they call them, residents. That's the word I'm looking for. There are residents that are doctors that just kind of plod and do their thing and try to, do the motions to get through it. Those people become doctors, just like the doctors that really want to do it, really want to learn, and really be the best. And what's going to happen ultimately is the good will win the day, and all these diversity hires, or all these, we're just going to stick women in here even if they don't want to do it. In the end, it's going to mean that they will ultimately lose. They will ultimately be a poor at their job, and they're going to be kicked out. And what's going to happen here is the same thing. But when you see stories like this, again, it can't last forever, because they're going to be running into bad applicants, and they're going to be desperate for people because there's just not a large enough segment of women and minorities that want to do this kind of thing. In the end, they're going to have to ignore their own desires. They're going to have to hire the men. But until then, if we start phrasing it as thank you for protecting men, and especially white men, I don't really mean especially white men, but again, when you say it this way, it's going to really drive it home that of what they're doing. You're like, hey, thank you for protecting white people and men from going into battle, maybe dying and having issues, leaving them out of the military. I think, and again, that's the crazy woke and the people that are really racist, the racism, right? It's really making the people that are really concerned about race and the white supreme people, like they're like this. They're like, hey, we both agree men should not be in the military and white guys should not go into battle, because who wants them dying? We want to keep them here safe at home. When you mix it up like that, I think you'll find we'll actually make a dent in some of this stuff. And you need to be ready to talk about it, because here we are.